Hey guys, one thing I've never talked about on the channel is actually my own personal weight loss transformation. It wasn't so long ago that I actually weighed closer to 300 pounds than I did 200 pounds. I actually looked like this. Yeah, so nothing like I look like today. And when I was cutting or dieting, at the peak of my diets, I would look like this. Yeah, so not really a big change there, but you could kind of see a 4-pack. And I thought, I had abs, so I was looking pretty good. But really, I was just kind of lying to myself. And the truth was, I really didn't know how to lose weight properly. It wasn't until I figured out everything that I know about macros now and counting macros, adjusting my macros, that weight loss changed for me forever. And I was able to not only lose all of the weight, but I've been able to keep all of the weight off for over 5 years now. Anyways, I recently finished writing a dieting ebook called Macros Made Easy, which shows anyone how they can find their macros, track their macros, and adjust their macros for continued and sustained weight loss as they diet, and also make dieting more of a lifestyle change than just this thing you do for so long and then you stop and gain all of the weight back. But just in case you don't want to buy the book or you don't have the money for the book, I also want to do this video on the 7 biggest tips that have helped me not only lose all the weight, but keep it off as well. Tip number 1, guys, is stop believing eating healthy foods alone is enough to lose weight. One of the most common misconceptions people have is that eating healthy and clean foods actually lends itself to losing weight. However, those are the same people who get to some part of their diet and they can't lose any more weight and they don't know why, or even worse, they start gaining weight. Well, eating healthy is great for a number of reasons: for feeling well, for just the overall health of your body, for sleeping well, for hormonal balance, for a ton of reasons. But for weight loss purposes, the total calories that you're consuming is actually far more important than your food sources. And I know for some of you that's sort of hard to understand, but the truth is you have to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. So when you were losing weight, eating all of those healthy foods initially in your diet, well, you actually were in a caloric deficit. But you got to a point where you actually were at a maintenance level of calories, eating all those healthy, clean foods, and you were no longer in a caloric deficit. So because of that, you stopped losing weight. And that is why tracking your calories, but more importantly, tracking your macronutrients is so important to weight loss. And since we just talked about caloric deficits, great stepping stone to tip number 2, which is calculating your TDEE. TDEE is an acronym for total daily energy expenditure. Your total daily energy expenditure is important because that's the number you're going to use to create a deficit, either with eating less food or doing more activity, aka cardio. And the good news, guys, is that actually calculating your total daily energy expenditure is super easy. There's a bunch of calculators online. I'll list one in the video description below just to make it even easier for you guys. So that brings us to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is learning how to set up and adjust your macronutrients for continued and sustained weight loss. I'm not gonna go too in depth on this tip just because it could be a whole video by itself, but what I will do is I will list a couple of really great videos that I personally recommend on setting up and adjusting your macronutrient numbers. All right, so that brings us to tip number 4, and tip number 4 is tracking your daily food intake. Thankfully, we live in the year 2017, and there are literally hundreds of apps that you can track your food on. But the best one, in my opinion, and the free one, is MyFitnessPal. This tip also correlates with tip number 1, which is eating healthy foods is not enough. And that's because too many people rely just on eating healthy food, and they never actually track how many calories they're eating of the healthy food. That's something I personally had to come to terms with because when I was at my heaviest, I really think I had something called orthorexia, which is actually when you're sort of afraid to eat bad foods or unhealthy foods. You only eat healthy foods. At the time, I was only eating healthy foods and I was the heaviest I ever had been, and that really was strictly because I was not tracking the calories from the healthy foods. And that means so much in terms of weight loss, like I've already said. And since we just talked about tracking food intake, it's a perfect lead in to tip number 5, which is investing in a good food scale. I'll list the link to this food scale in the video description below. There are tons of food scales out there. Don't buy a cheap one. I've gone through literally probably 20 food scales. This is the best one that I've come across, and the link to get one of these is in the video description below. Yes, weighing your food does take a little bit of time. Yes, it is sort of a pain in the ass, but eventually you just get used to it. It just becomes part of your life and it's totally worth it. Plus, the more you use your food scale, the better you're gonna get at eyeballing macros. It happens over time. So eventually you probably won't actually use your food scale as much as you did when you originally started out. But with that being said, it's also a huge advantage when you go out to eat at a restaurant. You're like, oh yeah, that chicken is 180 grams, that steak is 200 grams, that sweet potato is 400 grams. And you can be super accurate or get really close to your macros when you go out to eat with friends and family at restaurants. So I'm not sure if you guys have noticed the theme here, but every tip sort of leads into the next tip. We just talked about weighing our food. Now, tip number 6 is investing in a good body weight scale. We're gonna talk about weighing ourselves here. This is actually the #1 rated body weight scale on Amazon. I'm sure a lot of you guys have body weight scales, but if yours is old or broken, you can pick this up in the video description below. There'll be a link to it down there. So one question that I think is pretty common is how often should I weigh myself? And I could probably make a video on just that question alone, but for the sake of this video, you should weigh yourself every single day, preferably in the mornings, on an empty stomach with an empty bladder. And also weighing yourself every morning and keeping tabs on your average weekly weight, your average monthly weight is super, super, super important in terms of knowing when you need to make changes to your macros and or your activity level, aka cardio, to continue to lose weight as you progress through your diet. Which brings me to my 7th and final tip, which is either create a spreadsheet, or if you get the ebook, the spreadsheet comes along with it, that takes into consideration your daily average weight, your weekly average weight, your monthly average weight, and also that keeps you within ranges of your macros so that you know you're hitting the right macro ranges for your specific age group. And having a spreadsheet is a huge advantage over just putting your macros in the macro tracking app, because the spreadsheet shows you exactly when you need to make changes to your macros so you can continue to lose weight as you progress through the diet. And I know I've said that term as you progress through your diet a lot in this tip video, but I think that's one of the hardest things for people to understand is when do they need to make adjustments and how should they make adjustments? And that's the great thing about the spreadsheet, is that it shows you pretty much exactly how you should make your adjustments to continue to lose weight. Anyways, those are 7 of my best weight loss tips, guys. I hope they help you like they've helped me. They took me from almost 300 pounds and looking like this to 200 pounds and looking like this. But it's been a really long journey for me to get to this place, guys. And if any of these 7 tips can help you speed up your weight loss journey, then making this video was totally worth it. If you got something from it, if any of these tips helped you, please give the video a like, give it a thumbs up. It just helps the video get out to more people in the YouTube community. If you want to purchase the book, you can do so. There's a link in the video description below. I really appreciate all the support, guys. It means the world to me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
You are mine now. You belong to me. You're not gonna have your mommy run behind you anymore and wipe your little tushes. No more complaining. No more Mr. Kimble to go to the bathroom. Nothing. There is no bathroom.